Hi everybody, I'm Dr. John Douillard, and today I want to talk about something really important. You know, I follow the research streams that come in, the studies that are published every day. And in the last couple of weeks, I can't tell you, there is an inordinate amount of studies being published on air pollution and how toxic our environment really is. And one study actually, for the first time, mapped out exactly the ways, and this is just a short list, of how this toxicity in our air that filters down into our water, that filters into our land, which filters onto the food, which gets into our body, affects us. And so there's many ways that this really happens. It's something we need to be aware of. You know, in one study in 2019, 70 million tons of toxic chemicals were dumped in our atmosphere, which filter down into pretty much everything we eat, taste, touch, and smell. It's all coming into our body. We need to make sure this body can handle that level of toxicity. Otherwise, we're going to break down. We're going to age rapidly or end up with chronic degenerative concerns. It doesn't have to happen. It just doesn't have to happen. We can fix that. And Ayurveda has some really cool ways to make that happen I want to share with you to make sure that we're protected against those environmental stressors, those endocrine disruptors. So one of the ways we know is that these toxins create, this is from the study where they found 8 different mechanisms of how environmental pollutants, toxins affect our physiology. One is oxidative stress, free radical damage, which causes inflammation in the body. That's sort of the link. Oxidative stress causes inflammation. They've also been shown to cause genetic alterations and genetic mutations, which obviously allows genes to express negative traits more rapidly, right? They also affect epigenetic alterations. In other words, they don't have it directly damage the microbes in your gut, which directly take that genetic material into our genetic code and cause damage. They have an epigenetic effect. So in other words, an effect from the outside. Just the stress of those toxins can have an epigenetic altering effect, which can cause disease. It can cause mitochondrial dysfunction. You know, all the research on longevity basically revolves around mitochondria, the many little organelles in your cells that produce and drive the energy. A lack of AMPK and different enzymes to drive that mitochondria to have energy is linked to a shortened lifespan. And we now know that these toxins directly affect our mitochondrial function, therefore your energy, which is sort of why people get tired when they get older. And it doesn't have to happen. It really doesn't have to happen. Altered intercellular communication. You know, the cells communicate with each other. Think about the sodium-potassium pump, which creates the electrical potential in your cells that drives energy at a level in our body. It's hard to even fathom this, but the research suggests that our cells are producing as much energy as a nuclear power plant inside of our body all the time, because there's so many little electrical potentials taking place. That's intercellular communication, which is compromised again by these toxic environmental pollutants. The altered microbiome. We know that our microbiome is really delicate. It's really subtle. It has to have an environment, can't be too wet, can't be too dry. It's like the 3 little bears, it's got to be just right. And those pollutants that we ingest and inhale, they end up in our gut, earmarked for detoxification or to be broken down properly, but they wreak havoc in our intestinal microbiome, which is linked to our mood, our energy, our vitality, our gut immunity, which is 70% of your immune response, and also been shown to impair our nervous system. There's a new book out called Countdown, which is a book by a woman named Dr. Shah, who wrote a book about that in the last 50 years, many decades, they've been watching sperm counts and fertility rates dramatically getting lower and lower and lower. And they found since 1973, the amount of sperm that men have, who they think it's never their problem, is 50% lower than it was in 1973. And the trend is continuing, and it's linked to environmental pollutants and toxins. So it's a real thing. We have to look at it. Now, in one study, the U.S. Geological Society survey, they did a study and they found that in rural areas, 50% of the water that they drink is contaminated with pesticides. And in another study, in that same report, 90% of the aquatic life was contaminated with pesticides. So we're just bombarded with these chemicals. And as I've said before, your ability to digest well is linked to your ability to detoxify well. So if you don't digest wheat, dairy, nuts, seeds, grains, legumes, and you just keep taking stuff out of your diet because you feel better doing it, you're putting yourself at risk in the long run because your digestive strength is linked to your ability to detoxify. Just taking the food out of the diet, of course, if you feel bad with wheat, don't eat wheat, but fix the problem. That's an indicator. It's a message. It's an alarm bell that says, hey, my digestion is not working the way I should. I need to make sure I strengthen that. So please, I have a free digestive ebook. I've written so many articles on digestion. They're all free. How to self-help your way back into digestive strength. It's critically, critically important. Not trying to have people eat wheat. Even though I wrote a book called Eat Wheat, the message wasn't wheat. The message was, don't treat the symptoms any longer. Fix the cause of this problem because, it affects your immune system, which has clobbered a lot of us from the COVID perspective. It affects your ability to detoxify the environmental toxicity, which is now linked to, our species survival. I mean, that's what this book Countdown is about. It's countdown because you're counting down to species extinction because of no sperm caused by environmental toxins, which, we got to fight back against. Now, the really cool thing is that Ayurveda had crazy techniques to do this. One called doing cleanses with ghee, right? Well, that in science is called lipophilic mediated detox, which means taking fats, lipophilic fats like fats, and taking higher level of fats to pull bad fats out of your body. It's scientifically documented to pull out in one study with ghee for 7 days during a cleanse, pulled out 48% of the PCBs and 58% of the pesticides. It's also been shown to reduce heavy metal toxicity, which is also a fat-soluble toxin. So there are ways that Ayurveda had, even for dealing with their levels of toxicity way back in the day, because they had communities and towns and they were burning, their fires and stuff, and I imagine they probably had pollutants then. And smoke is really bad, by the way. It's just as bad or worse than some of the chemicals that they put in the atmosphere. So think about we have a free ebook called The Short Home Cleanse, which is a 4-day detox with ghee. In the ebook, it's free. It tells you where you can go buy all the stuff from your local place. You don't need to buy one thing from us. We do have a kit. You can buy stuff and get all the food for the 4 days if you want. But you can do it all your own. The recipes are there. Everything's there to get the benefits on your own. Please recognize, I'm telling you, this article at LifeSpa.com, read about these 8 ways. I've got another article coming out just linking all the ways that these toxic pollutants are impacting our health. And the studies are just overwhelming. And I've never seen this happen before. I watch the news feeds of science studies every day. And I've never seen the last couple of weeks, every day there's 2 or 3 studies on air pollution that are coming out. It's alarming, and we need to do something about it. And we have ancient wisdom and modern science to give us techniques to do it. And you can do it all on your own, without having to, this is not a promotional thing from LifeSpa. This is clearly to help you guys. And the ebook is free, and it tells you how to do it on your own, from your own local stores. Buy your stuff and get it done. So check that out at lifespa.com. And if you like this video, like it and share it, because this is really important information. Okay, guys, see you next week. Thanks for listening. I'm Dr. John Douillard.